In the tradition of Malcolm X, peace be unto you. Today I want to recommend that you read 5 books. If you can't read them, maybe you can listen to them being read to you. Or if you can, watch the movie version of each of these books. All of them have been made into movies. Of course, I recommend most of all that you read them. The books are 5 in number, and I'm going to read the titles and the authors first. Number 1, The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. Number 2, Time Machine by H.G. Wells. Number 3, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Number 4, 1984 by George Orwell. And number 5, Animal Farm by George Orwell. I think that these books are important for you because they will help you to clearly understand the centrality of human nature, given the problems that we face today and that we will continue to face far into the future, however limited that future may be for us. Let me first give you a brief of the basic premise in the book, The Island of Dr. Moreau. Dr. Moreau was a Frenchman. He was a eugenicist, and he practiced in France surgeries that were outlawed. He was exiled to an island. On that island, he continued to experiment by performing eugenical methods that would make animals into human. Or put another way, imbue animals with reason. He thought that by genetic manipulation, he could reduce the wild ferociousness of beasts by increasing their capacity to reason and, in fact, phenotypically transforming them into a human form, a kind of metamorphosis by eugenic methodology. The second book is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. That book also emphasized the problem of making a permanent, stable social hierarchy, and makes the argument through the narrative that only by manipulating human DNA, human genes, can social hierarchies be stabilized so that the elite may rule without challenge from lower castes or classes. The third book, Animal Farm, was written by George Orwell, if you recall. Animal Farm is a very short novel. The narration has to do with the animals becoming frustrated and feeling victimized by the farmer, a human being. And so they plan a strategy to revolt. They organize a revolution against the human owner, their master, and they overcome his opposition and run him off the farm and take over. Well, not all the animals, of course. The pigs take over. And over time, the pigs become oppressive, and the animals start to sense that history was repeating itself, but with a different elite, a pig elite. And so they had to plot once more to revolt. The fourth book, 1984, takes a slightly different twist with respect to the narration of the human predicament by telling the story about a totalitarian state that can only stabilize itself by maximizing the fear of its citizens and engaging in warfare, unlimited warfare, with an enemy that is magnified through its propaganda machine as being a threat, an existential threat to the existence of the citizens of a totalitarian state. And the war goes on and on and on. And of course, the citizens are subject to a very extreme, strict, totalitarian control network. They are watched even through their own televisions. They are spied upon by their neighbors. The fifth book is Time Machine by H.G. Wells again. And this book is a real twist on explaining the predicament of human nature, because the lead character invents a time vehicle and is able to travel through time and literally see the transformations of human society. And what that time traveler, a human being living in 19th century England, observes is the destructive orientation of human societies, the conflicts that result from competition for resources and the exploitation of human energy. And he witnesses a nuclear war. And of course, the destruction of the ecological network that we all depend upon. And in his time machine, he decides to press on and go far into the future, which he does. And he lands at a time long after the nuclear war. And he then is able to observe the collateral effects of radiation poisoning on the human race. If you read the book, you will note a chapter that is not in the movie. Pay special attention to it, because in the last chapter of the book, he gets in his time machine and he goes to the very, 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 very far future of this planet, of course, to a moment in time when life has nearly come to an end on the surface of this planet. I highly recommend that even if you see the movie, get the book and read the last chapter, because it underscores the futility of human conflict. Now, what each of these books highlight, the thread that connects them, aside from all of the circumstantial problems that the characters face, is that human nature is constant. is the same everywhere. For me, what that means is that no matter how far back in time you go, 300,000 years, if you will, or no matter how far into what we call the future, we are able to stay alive. Our nature, our core nature, like the molten core of this planet, will remain the same. And so we should not expect changes in the fundamental problems we face in relation to one another because, as I've said many times, we are on the square of opposition. And the nature that we have is the very nature that all animals have. And here's something else about human nature as a constant. If human nature were to change and become either more passive in relation to the environment or more aggressive in relation to the environment, which of course includes other people, humanity would become extinct much sooner. Or if human nature remains constant, as it is, humanity will inevitably self-destruct. And collective human reason is not strong enough to alter any of the three outcomes I've just elaborated upon. Human reason has never been strong enough to stop the building of nuclear weapons, the use of nuclear weapons in war, the 20 years war that we've been engaged in, the killing of innocents in war, the fabrication of enemies, the spurring of fear in our population. Number two, human groups will engage in conflict on the square because human nature is constant. There is nothing we can do, according to the writers of those novels, to change human nature. Dr. Moreau failed to increase the proportion of reason in relation to fear and or anxiety. Brave New World proves failure as well in the artificial construction of a so-called stable caste system. Because if you read that book, it collapses. Animal Farm underscores the vicious circle that we are all trapped in because of our human nature, which is animal nature, being unable to rationally, ethically, morally raise ourselves collectively above that destructive pot of seething anxiety. And Time Machine says that ultimately we are doomed. That is why those 5 books, in my opinion, are worth your time this summer or at night. Listen to it. Read to you. Listen to the story and apply it to the situation that we are in. So it begs the question then, what is hope? What is there to hope in if we cannot hope in human nature? You think about that. You think about what there is to hope in if we cannot hope in human nature, which fails every day, which failed yesterday, and which will fail tomorrow. Human nature is constant, and it is the same everywhere. In Africa, elite oppress the poor. They kill them. They beat them. Just as police kill and oppress the poor here. No matter where you go, no matter what the phenotype of the oppressor may be, they oppress those that threaten to level the playing field, as did the animals in the novel The Animal Farm. But if they succeed, which is rare, they find themselves inevitably facing a new elite who are addicts to power. And power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely. I am Dr. Stephen Nur Ahmed. Peace be unto you.